In the far future, there will be only war.
The chains are broken.
This will be a good hunt.
Through the dark veil of space-time.
This is Warp Chatter.
Stone and steel will speak.
Let's get this over with.
All right, here we are, once again, back in the Warp Chatter Eye of Terror studios. This is the Warp Chatter podcast. Thank you for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. After a couple of weeks of some technical issues, I believe we've got it all sorted out. I am your host, Scuffy. This is the podcast dedicated to talking about the Horus Heresy Legion's digital card game, Horus Heresy Lore, Warhammer 40,000, all good stuff that we enjoy about the game. This is a podcast by players for players. And with me today, joining me is, as always, my crab co-host, Axel Manning.
Howdy, howdy, ho.
And with us today, once again, is ReksKolt from Team Asia.
Hello.
Hello. We had gotten together last week, and we did the episode, the podcast, did the recording, talked for a couple hours, and then turns out when I went to go edit it the following day, none of that audio got picked up. I think there was a setting in the Discord chat that got flipped, so we could hear each other fine when we were talking, but that didn't translate to the audio file. So we're hoping we don't have those issues going forward, and we're going to try to kind of cover the same stuff that we talked about last week, but really there's been a couple new things come up that are going on in the course of the game. We've got obviously with ReksKolt joining us from Team Asia, we're going to talk about World Cup today. We can also talk about the event reinforcements, and then what looks to be a very nice Primarch special coming up this weekend. So I don't know, before we get into that, I want to make sure that we do take the time to actually introduce the player who gave us his introductions last week. But ReksKolt, if you want to tell us about yourself.
Well, I started playing Horus Heresy Legions around 3 or 4 years ago, around the Prospera expansion. I think it was, I started playing just before the Canis Vertex raid event. I think it was during the event when the Force Warlord for Thousand Suns was going to be added. At that time, I didn't even expect to play the game competitively. I was not into Warhammer universe before I started playing the game, as I only started to getting interested in it because of my friend who told me about the universe through one modification for a game called for Assault Squad 2. And after that, he recommended me to play Legions. I think that Legions was a great game for me to learn more about Horus Heresy, because I saw different characters there, different legions, which got me interested in reading a lore about them, and it also helped me to memorize their names, names of the planets, and I'd say that throughout my career at Horus Heresy Legions, I was getting more knowledgeable in the Warhammer universe, and I'm really grateful to my friend, because Warhammer is a big part of my life right now.
Yeah, it's...
And
go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm not playing a support game because, well, I'm not that interested in playing it, and there's, I think there are no shops for miniatures here in my country. And
only imagine that the people who play it there's not a lot of people.
Yeah, they're probably ordering the miniatures from abroad and forming some little clubs with their friends. At least I think I heard about them. And I'm not really sure if Warhammer is popular in my country. But I surprisingly found some people that play Legions, at least. It was a surprise for me. And I'm not sure if I'll start playing tabletop in the future, because, well, it will take a lot of time for me to learn the rules, and it costs a lot to build an army.
Yeah, it's quite pricey.
Yeah, it is definitely something you can't just like, I'll just spend, a few $100s to try it out. Like, if you are having fun, enjoying the setting any sort of way, and that's one of the things I think we talked a little bit about last week, was there's so many different ways to experience Warhammer 40,000 or the Horus Heresy. There's obviously, when it comes to lore, we've got, you've got the books, you've got codexes that are actually part of the game, you've got video games that have got their own lore, you've got the internet is an amazing tool, YouTube channels, a lot of YouTube content creators that just do, detailed information if you want to find out about a certain legion or a faction or a character. You can learn stuff that way. Obviously, we've got the card game. There are board games as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to just get involved in it. The setting itself is really kind of the appeal. The game is nice. The tabletop game is nice, but I mean, there's so many ways to play. You could play a specialist game. You could play Kill Team if you really want to play, with the models. You could just paint. Some of the people who do amazing paint jobs don't actually play, but they'll paint the squads and the units. So, I mean, whatever is your the way you enjoy the hobby, you enjoy the setting. I think that's the cool thing about Warhammer 40,000, especially, is you can find any sort of way to really appreciate it. Aside from, I mean, we're getting there, but aside from like movies and stuff, like I know we're starting to get some of the like the Hammer and Bolter, a lot of the fan-based films on the internet have helped scratch that itch, but that's really the only area where, like, yeah, you might get some cinematic cuts in a video game, but that's about as all we've gotten, and maybe in a couple of years that won't be the case.
Well, there was one film about Ultramarines. It was CGI based.
Oh gosh, yes. Did you watch that?
No.
I did, and I wanted to like it. I really did.
I have not. I'm in the same boat. I picked it up because it was $5 in clearance, and I knew I heard about it when they were coming out with it, and then it came out, and a lot of people were like, "Don't even." It's really just super boring, and it's not great. And I was like, that's really disappointing, because granted, I was already kind of like, it's called Ultramarine. Yay. I'm not really a big Ultramarine fan, but I was expecting at least a little bit of something more. So I'm hopeful, because especially just from what we've seen from the trailers and the little, previews online for like Angels of Darkness and Hammer and Bolter, those little shorts that they've got there, it looks like they're getting better pacing, some stuff that's going to be more exciting to watch, and hopefully will be pretty awesome. I mean, Blood Angels, Space Hulk fighting Tyranids, or Gene Stealer Colts, or Orcs. I think there's going to, yeah. I mean, just give us. I think when the intro cutscene from Dawn of War surpasses a actual movie production, that says something.
Yeah.
Let's be real here, though. Those Dawn of War intros are really good.
That is. Even Dawn of War 3, I mean, and I know the game itself wasn't great, but the intro was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, Angels of Darkness will be about Blood Angels, which is already more interesting than Ultramarines.
Yes. I'm really curious, because, I mean, it's not just the color of the armor. There's the lore, the history there. Are we going to see the Red Thirst? Are we going to see the Black Rage? Well,
there were some callbacks on it in the first, I think it was 5 or 15 minutes of the show.
Oh, really?
At least, yeah, like there was a space marine who was kneeling before the statue of St. Venus, and I think he like had visions of the last means, the last means of St. Venus, and then their chaplain came in, and well, they started discussing I forgot it. Was it Black Rage?
Yes, yeah. The Black Rage is what puts them in the Death Company. Essentially, that's a They at that point they succumb. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they were discussing it.
Okay, very well. That's a big part of what the Legion has become 10,000 years later. So that'll be exciting. And what's kind of cool with that too, I mean, if it really hooks and it gets people's interest, I mean, it may take a while, but that could be the catalyst, maybe 10 years from now, for us to get a Horus Heresy not web series, but mini series or animated series. That'd be awesome.
And I'm going to be real. What we're getting soon, the Blood Angels one, looked good already from like the teasers we've seen.
Yes.
I watched the first 5 minutes, and it's so good.
Yeah, the
Terminator facing down the Tyranid swarm with just one arm. Beautiful.
The guy who was one of the creative guys, I don't know if he's directing it or is working on the animation for it. Yeah, he did the Hell's Reach video. And
Hell's Reach is amazing.
And that was all fan done with like the Unreal Engine, So the GW saw that and they're like, "Hey, come work for us." I think they did the same thing with the guy who did Astartes, which was amazing.
Yep.
Which it's finally good to see them reaching out and picking up that talent, because there are people. It's not just that they made this short, that they're 40K fans. They're really passionate about it. Whereas if you just like, hey, we hire this studio who's going to do a movie for us, if they're not really into it, they're not going to treat it the same way. They're not going to say this isn't good enough, or what about this? Like, just having a fan who knows those things really makes a big difference.
Yeah, well, it's good. I think there's also a negative side to it, because last week we already talked about it, but there was preparing an animation about Iron Warrior Squad during the Horus Heresy era. And it wasn't stated whether the squad will stay loyal to the Emperor or they will join Perturabo during this show. So the story was going to be interesting, because Horus Heresy is not covered in any animations from what I've seen, and especially the Loyal Marines from Traitor Regions, which are like one of the most badass characters in the Horus Heresy series, and I think after Games Workshop got authors of this animation, as creators of it, they changed the name of it. Previously it was called Codex, but now it's called Iron Within, and they also changed the story, which is now about some quartzmen stranded on a planet which is sieged by warriors. And I think it's strange to call an animation about quartzmen Iron Within and have Iron Warriors there as antagonists.
Right, yeah, if you're going to have them as the antagonist, it should be called something more thematic, like, Decimation, or,
Wall of Guns.
Something, just like, Siege Breakers, or something more intimidating. Iron Within, if they're the protagonist, it's about the Iron Warriors, I can get it, but when you're facing the Iron Warriors as the enemies, it just kind of puts a different thing in the story. Like we talked about last week, which we were mentioning, was the story that it is no longer what it is going to be, and that can happen. I think we also mentioned too, when the downsides with the fan-made content is sometimes either the backlash or because it's all fan-made, like the guy who was working on Death of Innocence, I believe, was that what it was?
Death of Hope.
Death of Hope.
Yeah, Death of Hope.
Which I didn't see myself, but visually I heard it looked really good. But I know the he got some negative criticism from his first couple episodes, and he just didn't enjoy what he got, so he just stopped doing it. And that's unfortunate too. I mean, because that can be the thing, because it's all personal. It's all fan made. It's not like, hey, I'm just doing this for the passion or because I really enjoy it. But at the same time, if somebody's not happy with how it's being received, or not worth they somewhere along the way they determine it's not worth the effort, they just stop, and then you don't get to finish the project, and then it's like, well, I was going to start watching it, but if I know you're not going to finish it, there's no point in me spending any time on it. It's just another unfinished project out there.
Yeah. Which is, a true shame.
It is. Speaking of true shames, I'm going to try to segue back into the card game. We're going to talk
wait, we do a card game podcast?
We are talking about the Horus Heresy card game, but true shames. Khorne's Chosen, guys. It's been an additional week since we talked. I think last week we talked, it was like just added to the game. It hadn't even been available in the shop yet. It was just available for those top 10 lodges that had won the raid event. And then since we did that Lost in the Warp episode, it was available in the shop. A lot of people have picked it up, and it is running rampant side by side with the new Crucial Choice. I know for World Cup, it is not allowed in World Cup. It's been banned. There was votes taken on that, which I think that's very smart. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts on it. Let's talk about Khorne's Chosen for a sec.
All right, I think I can begin here. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I'll be quick about this. It's fundamentally broken. Like, simply from a balancing state of point, they killed Vengeance Garo. They put him down because he was actually unreasonable, but they just added him back and made it so a lot more warlords can be like him. And they didn't realize the mistake.
Yeah, let me tell you, Vengeance Garo is not Khorne's Chosen Garo is not even broken compared to to Cypher with Khorne's Chosen.
Oh man, I heard about people doing that. That just sounds mean.
Yeah, it's a bit harder to execute, but it's more consistent. I didn't face one yet on ladder, and I don't want even to try it, but I just hope I won't face it.
No, it's gnarly. I mean, I've come across it mostly against Khorne. I've got a lot of Khorne players who run it, which that is the easiest application to run it with. I think it's the most, 12 to 14 damage. It's not the highest threshold, but it's the easiest one to run it in. But Garo and Cypher as well, I mean, they both have they can do the setup. Garo doesn't have to attack. He can heal as he's building up his hand to go ham. Cypher has got the tools where he might take 3 or 4 turns to set everything up, but with his ability, as well as with some support cards from his faction, he's got a game plan until he gets to that point, and then he just goes berserk. You've got warlords like Russ. You've got, nobody has used it yet in Kurz, which I think is fair because it's Kurz you're typically hiding, but that is an option late game. I think some people are working on using it with Jagatai Khan. It's not, like you said, I agree with what Axel said in terms of it's very reminiscent of a card that caused a lot of problems that they changed, and now they made the card available to multiple warlords. Every warlord, but it's neutral, so I mean every warlord can use it. I hope it gets changed soon. I don't like to rant on cards. I know we talked about Desperate Defense after like 4 months of Desperate Defense, but this was a card that we could see the problem coming, and a lot of people at this point are kind of talking about it or they're still working on builds like how to abuse it, how to exploit it, and then at the same time, once you do, you're like, yeah, this isn't fun. Like, it's brutal. You can do it for the sake of saying you did it, but after that, do you really want to live with yourself? Do you really want to play the game that way?
Yeah, I hope that Khorne's Chosen gets nerfed as well as Crucial Choice. Well, maybe they will just change the cards of Khorne's Chosen fundamentally, but I think they will probably just make it +4 attack until for only your next turn and reduce the cost of the card.
Yeah, I think that's probably the easiest
just one attack
fix.
to balance.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest fix. It's not great. Personally, I'd like to see something a little more like as a permanent buff, like, you get rage, gain +1 health and +1 attack or something like that. Like, it could be thematic too, but as it stands,
Give
it's
your warlord berserk and something cool.
something, basically make him a Har, or Har light, Har plus.
Yeah.
That could be interesting, but yeah, it's we'll have to see how it goes. So far, this is obviously just week 1 after being widely available. And it is a raid event award, but they've made changes to cards that have been awards before, as they see them become problems. I think we may have to wait another couple of weeks and just see how it impacts the meta report, because I do think a lot of changes, e.g. looks at the meta report, or they look at how events run to make some changes. So we'll see. But I wanted to get your guys' take on it, because I don't think there's anybody out there that's been celebrating it. There's been a lot of people who have been celebrating their builds as far as how to exploit it, but then after that they kind of look at their handiwork and they're like, I don't know.
I've created a monster.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not in a good place. And you mentioned earlier Crucial Choice, Rex. That's another one of those cards where I've got a couple wins using just that, and it doesn't feel good. It's like, cool, I drafted up the exact perfect tactic off of pure luck.
Yeah, like, I remember I was playing ladder yesterday and I faced 2 crawls which got Raven's Claw from Crucial Choice both times, and yeah, it was hard to win. I lost one game and won the other one, but that was mostly just pure luck.
Yeah,
I got a good one with an irresistible charisma stealing the dreadnought that the Night Lords have. They gain more attack when it attacks. Mm-hmm. That's the only reason I won. The current.
It's not. There's a lot of things wrong with it. I mean, I've always liked Crucial Choice before. I know nobody played it. I played it more in meme decks than anything, but there was strategy on both the card that you picked as well as the fact that you're picking something that you're giving your opponent. I don't mind if it's just something that you get a benefit from because they wanted to make the legendary better. And I've said this on the Discord in the balance chat, I think feedback or whatever it was. I just think like maybe if you pick a card, it should cost more. Like, so you're paying 2 energy to get a legendary, but you're getting a legendary that costs more. And then that in itself, like, yeah, you get Raven's Talons, but you have to pay it at 6 energy to put it on. Is that going to be a good time to go for it, really? Or you get Vengeful Spirit.
Double down even more.
Yeah.
I think it should have the tag word that says put a Crucial Choice in the enemy's hand after you play the card. I want to see endless legendaries bouncing back and forth just to see what happens.
That could be ugly, because I could see that especially for like Alpha Legion shenanigans, or where they're like, hey, yeah, just keep filling your hand up. Like, this card's never going to go away.
You just keep bouncing it back between the 2 players.
Ooh.
Because I mean, at least that could be interesting. Because right now it's just give yourself a legendary card. And, okay, there's some bad ones, but realistically, you can't complain when you're given a legendary card from out of faction 9 times out of 10. Well,
and you have the choice. You have the choice of 3.
Yeah.
It's not a random. If it was, it's random 3, but you still have that choice. Yeah.
I feel like if it was play it and get a random one, it would be a lot worse. Well, that's kind of obvious, but I feel like there wouldn't be much mention of it, because it's like, oh, cool, I just got Horned Remnant again. I got Forge Breaker.
Right. Or you get
Mantle of Ultramar.
Yeah, or you get a legendary that has nothing to go with your warlord or your deck, where when you've got those 3, you're like
Book of Magnus, or
you
whatever
can kind of pick it like, do I want to have, the hammer, Dawnbringer, or whichever hammer that's the one that's the 9 energy drop, or do I want to have this legendary tactic that is going to bounce a troop, like Corrupted, was it the Night Household one, the 6 energy legendary.
Oh, Corrupted Usurpation?
Yeah, Usurpation or whatever it is, yeah. But if you're playing against...
the one that steals the troop?
Yeah, if you're playing against an enemy who doesn't have troops, why would you pick that? But if you get stuck with it because
Exactly.
you didn't get a choice,
It's useless.
the choice is in the title of the card, though, so maybe that's why they've got it that way.
Yeah.
I didn't even understand why they made it only legendaries. Like, when I saw the buff to Crucial Choice, I didn't read it, the whole sentence fully, so I thought that it was made just like Caitlyn, but only one time. So you get the choice of any tactics. So I thought that, that's a reasonable buff to the card. But then,
You read the fine print.
yeah, and I don't even understand why they really just made it all the legendaries. It's just too strong.
It's crazy.
It felt like they were like, you know what this card needs? This card needs a shot of steroids, and just no balance check. Yeah, no balance check whatsoever. Let's just make it crazy.
It's there because the idea is there are some bad legendaries. Like, that's not even debate. Like, there are some that are essentially useless, but the mass majority of them, are so good that you can't complain about getting them out of faction.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I get Architect of the Heresy and I'm up against any type of deck that has troops, there is no complaint going to happen. Because it's like, all right, I'm bouncing something or I'm stealing something.
Yeah, yep.
I got your Dracul. Maybe I won't be endless HP Vulcan, but I'm still now a walking hard removal.
Yeah, I don't know if they just didn't include, because before, it was all tactics. Even aside from giving a copy of it to your opponent's hand, there were plenty of times where you would get stuff that you couldn't play, that was not going to do any good in the entire game, and you were like, well, I'll just pick the one that's lowest cost energy or might have a rare chance to play. You could still have that, but if they winnowed it down to maybe rares only or epics or just commons, there's a lot of tactics there that still are good.
What I think they need to do is I think they finally need to draw a difference between war gear tactics and normal tactics.
I agree.
So they can have card text that says generate a war gear or generate a flagship. Like, tactics need to have a slash and then another word added onto them. Some of them.
Just in the same way that we have teachings and we have theoreticals and practicals and ways to create those. I agree. I would like to see that as a keyword, just equipment or
I've been using the term war gear often, and most people know what you're talking about. It's like you equip this to your warlord. It's an item in their lore that does blank. But also, there are some factions that don't have any war gear, and that's dumb.
Yeah.
Like my word bearers, we have a book. That's it.
Hey,
Logar has this cool mace. What does he get? A book.
Your whole faction are Bible thumpers. That's what's going to happen, man. That's what you're going to get.
Not only do we have our Bibles that thump with, but we have maces that thump with. Give us both.
But when they do the next expansion and we actually start seeing new cards added to existing factions, that will be fun to see, because it could be neat to see, the Talon of Horus added, right? Or the Layer Blade for the Emperor's Children. Silence for Mortarion and Typhon, too. But there's some factions that don't have war gear. Storm's Teeth.
I don't know why that's not in there at all.
Yeah.
And the Lion comes with none.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got...
Russ doesn't even come with his signature one. Russ comes with the spear that he only uses sometimes.
Right. So, it'll be neat to see the heft they added. Technically, I've always said, whether people agree with me or not, technically the Sons of Horus do have war gear. It's the ammo that they have. They actually have got several different rounds. But, it's
my definition of war gear binds it to the warlord.
Yeah.
Because my mind goes to the tabletop where it's like, okay, my HQ is packing this war gear.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. And as the current moment, a lot of legions don't have that. Ferrus Manus doesn't even have his goddamn hammer.
No, he's got the servo arms. That's it, man. The hammer's somewhere
arguably
else.
Are pretty good. That's still his war gear.
Yeah.
But you know, now that I think about it, the Iron Hands would benefit a lot more from that hammer than the Iron Warriors do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've never once thought about how Forge Breaker is card on the Iron Warriors, but would be a good legendary for the Iron Hands.
Yeah, because, I mean, none of their warlords have the ability, well, aside from Santar, to damage troops, but it's a significant damage, and it's a stun.
Yeah. So you can lock them down and build your board while their threat can't move, if it survived at all, because it's a big nuke for 4.
Yeah, yep.
I was expecting to see a gem for warlords from Sisters of Silence or Neutrals for this expansion, because during one of the Q&A session, EG said that they were planning to add such card.
I like their Q&As, but at the same time, man, they annoy me. Like, they'll be like, oh, we're going to do this. When? Good question.
Yeah.
Like, how long have we been waiting for a new game mode?
For a lot of time.
I'm not holding my breath on that at this point. I mean, let's be real. Like, that's just
listen. Every time they bring up the new game mode, they add new features to it.
Yes. It's
guess what, guys? This new shop you want, it's going to be part of the new game mode. The new use for gems, it's going to be part of the new game mode. Stop adding stuff. Just release the new game mode.
Maybe that's the whole point. Like, if they just keep adding it to the new game mode, they'll never have to do the new game mode because it's just.
But what if it confuses players, Scuff?
You know what'll confuse new players is if
they release it.
If they release it, they'll be like, "What? I'm confused.
We can have more.
Game? How is this possible?
Oh, man.
How long have they been working on this?"
That's my second thing that annoys me every time. When EG's default answer is just, it will confuse new players.
Yeah. You know, but to be fair, there have been some times I have seen new players confused. And I always kind of wonder, I'm like, is this what they're trying to avoid? Because it's usually as a result of, you know, something very minor, like a minor change, you know.
I've had some confusion happen just because people don't understand things. Like, someone was accusing ROM of being pay to win because it says non-collectible, but they weren't putting two and two together that Argel Tall can start as him. Mm-hmm. So they just assumed you could only buy ROM and he was pay to win.
How did they get that wrong? Yeah. Well, speaking of warlords, speaking of unstoppable warlords, you guys have seen the spoiled image for Sanguinius, for that alt art Sanguinius?
No.
I'll send it to you right now, Rex. Man, the armor does not look great. Now, I understand a lot of people like that art. Beautiful pose. His armor is just too tiny.
It's very thin. As an angel, I think he's that picture is from the cover of The Lost and the Damned, if I recall correctly. It just sets him as a very slender figure, but it looks good. I mean, for my sake, I mean, it's not in-house art. It looks really nice. The card back looks very nice.
Oh, the card back's beautiful.
Yeah.
If the voice is good enough, I will consider grabbing it because the card back is beautiful.
Yeah,
but
it's not the bulky plates.
I have a thing for bulky armor.
Yeah.
So seeing him come out and it looks like he's just wearing like the Imperial Guard style cardboard at that point, it's just like, that's some small armor for our boy.
Well, if it was too big, would he be able to fly in it? I mean, it's got to be light, right? He's an angel.
All right, let's be real here. His wings defy the laws of physics already because he does not have hollow bones. I refuse to believe that. Unless that's how Horus killed him so easily. Just kind of snapped him in half. We don't know.
We don't know. But yeah, it looks good, and that's pretty awesome to see that he's finally coming. I believe it's supposed to be probably this weekend. We'll probably see that special starting tomorrow. If we don't, we'll see it next week. But then that just means that Jagatai Con should be following after that. Which, that's the one I'll be waiting for, because I still don't have Jagatai.
I hope that they will have White Scars a bit more, because White Scars are really interesting in their gameplay, and I really liked the faction when it came out. Well, not including the Targetized Sacrifice, I mean the first iteration of it, because it was busted.
Yeah,
man, Targetized Sacrifice when it first dropped.
They are kind of at this point struggling pretty hard. Like every time I run into a con, I win. When I'm playing, like I really kind of feel like I want to say that's on players for trying to play him as a mono warlord, but his energy curve still is suffering. The Hibu Khan and the Kinza games are very fun that I play. Those go down to the wire and they're very fast. I don't see target tie at all. I do like the new edition of the Fateful Clash, that new neutral card that gives frontline to your enemy warlord.
Oh, yes.
Because that is the one thing that always held them up. That's why target tie sacrifice was always kind of essential, was if your opponent had frontline troops or multiple frontline troops, you had to find a way to clear them. But if you can just make their warlord frontline, that's one way to go about it. So I want to find a way to implement that decently with either Hibu or Kinzan. A couple people were talking about that today or yesterday, I think, on the Discord, and I think that is the key card there, because they hit hard, they hit fast, they can really do a lot of damage at the 7 energy mark. That's really when they go off.
Yeah. I got ruined by 2 outriders on the field and then flankers because I wasn't able to remove them in time, and it hurt.
Mm-hmm.
They're neat, but they need something. We talked about this on a previous episode with Duke. They should have synergy with Return to Hand.
Just a
more
little
synergy.
Yeah, just a little.
Yeah.
Something. Just a little something. I agree.
Yeah, I really like that they have a lot of ways to bounce their troops back to their hand, because it's really fun. Especially, I remember the event against Death Guard when there was Zolman Khan, the guy who is a special card like
Right.
Centurion. Knight Centurion. He was really cool. I think that was one of the few rare force event of warlords which had both warlords kinda cool, because both Hibu and someone on paper they're effective, and I really enjoy playing Hibu-Han against this guard, because like I remember a match where Mortarion was keeping poisoning my troops while I bounce them back just to return them like on the battlefield.
Right, you don't have to worry about losing them at that point. You're just like, yep, they're back.
No.
Yeah,
They ain't gonna stay dead.
yeah, I imagine that match was really annoying for the Mortarion player, which I faced.
Okay, let's be real here. Mortarion players deserve it. I know they're not broken, they're not OP or anything. They're just the most boring matches in the world.
I don't have
We're stunned now.
as
We're
much
stunned
fun
now.
playing. Yeah, Mortarion, I mean, it's consistent and it plays well. It's a good deck, but I just don't enjoy the long games. I actually have more fun playing as Typhon, and even then, like, I might play like 2 or 3 Typhon games before I'm like, okay, I need a break. Like, it just is not the play style for me.
Yeah, I think that if you want to play Control, I think like Imperial Fist is the most interesting Legion
Yes.
Control style.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, like Imperial Fists are pretty good for control.
I've also been playing the last week Malkador, and that's been fun. I mean, I was playing Rubio before, so I was already playing Agents of the Sigilate, but the way he plays is just it's kind of like, I don't want to say a breath of fresh air, but I mean, really it was like, okay, like I've had fun with the abilities and building the board and troops, and he does it differently, but the hand knowledge and having that every turn, and then kind of having your opponent play the mind game, it feels like it's almost going way back to when, Alpha Legion first came out, and there was secret orders that were like the mind game, and they still are, but
Old secret orders.
yeah, but
man.
on a different level. And then you've also still got the threat of seals. That now I've created, and now that I've created like 5 or 6 seals in my deck, so things are really going to get crazy if they go off. And I think that the change to Malkador's ability, making it 0 energy, makes it a lot easier for you to use the other stuff that you've got in hand or on board. And it's just been really fun to play Malkador, and that is a different kind of game altogether, because you never know what you're going to get. I think we talked about this last week. We talked about the randomness of the seals. But it's fun.
Seals they're cool.
they're not very consistent. So a lot of people who are going when they first released that they'll be broken,
Right.
I don't think they understood the concept of you get this one card that's not even guaranteed to be in your deck on spawn.
You gotta
Now you gotta draw it.
Now you gotta draw it. Like there have been games where I've created like 5 or 6 seals and I don't see them, but that's
Yeah, same.
they're just icing. Like it's the play style with the other cards that you've got on your deck. You've got the ability that you're like looking at their hand and you're saying, okay, I've got 3. I see these 3 cards in your hand. All right, you haven't played those 3 cards. It's been 3 turns later, so I know you still have them. Or maybe I've seen other cards, so now I've seen anti-stealth. Is it worth it for me to play a stealth? Or I'll see a seek and destroy. So is it worth it to throw out this troop? Or maybe I'll bait that seek and destroy out. And like just it's a lot more engaging. And
Which is why I think Sanguinius should do the same.
Yeah.
Let me see 3 cards.
yeah, or if he saw, or if he just looked at their hand and like if it was a tactic, gain precognition or survive or something like that. I know that might be going too far, but just look at
maybe
a card.
look into the opponent's hand. If it's blank, gain blank.
Yeah, just looking at their
This-
card is like, I mean, if you got nothing
Even
else
if it's
to
like,
do.
if it's a tactic, heal 1. Like anything, because
Right.
there's no reason to use Sanguinius' ability. I've never seen my opponent
No.
use it.
They've used it. I've had it where they use it like the first turn, and then that's about it.
You just use it because you don't really want to go face off spawn in case they hit you with something like going face and then pulling the draw card that deals 2 damage when it draws a tactic. And that just puts you even further behind. Like, I don't know why I can't remember its name off the top of my head. I use it. What's that card?
Void engagement.
Oh, yeah, Void Engagement. There we go. Couldn't remember its name to save my life.
That's okay.
It's good.
Talking about seals, I don't like their concept because of the randomization. Because like you can get lucky and draw it really soon after generating it, or get unlucky and get it at the end of your deck, which is it's not very consistent, and it kind of makes me sad to lose to some random, like it's kind of like with Fabius Ball and his buffs. It's just a casino, more like a casino than a tactical game.
Yeah, I think that's a fair argument because, and there's lots of other, whether it's warlords or cards out there, like Forbidden Protocols is another example of that. Like you could lose from that being random, like that, just getting the maximum buffs. You could lose to like the traps going off from an Alpha Legion player if everything just lines up and they just draw out your deck. It's not something to build on. It's not something where you feel like, okay, well, whether you're the player or the opponent, like, okay, well, I really did that game good. Or like they did a great play. They drew a card that they created that deals 7 damage. Yay. But I think some of those cards, like that, at least like the randomness that's needed to draw it, you don't know what you're going to get. Like there's only one card that lets you choose a seal. Everything else is like you could be getting a bunch of seals that are just reduce the cost of the next card played to 0. And it doesn't do you any good, especially if you don't have a whole lot of cards in your hand. You're like, that's not going to, I'm not gaining anything here. But I think when you get it with Malkador, like in that instance with him at least, if you get him to his Reckoning form, then it makes more sense. Like some of the times I've played the games, I usually get his Reckoning off about every 3rd game or so. It's much more consistent. And sometimes I'll play a seal just to play it to lower the Reckoning cost. If I get it because I know I've made 3 or 4, I'm not banking on those ones in my deck at all. What I'm banking on is becoming the whatever his Reckoning form is, and then choosing one and creating it and having that automatically played every turn. And that's an alt win con, but because at that point you have control and you've worked to get to that point, anything you draw from the deck is like, hey, that's a wonderful present I wasn't expecting, but that's not what I'm banking on. And I don't think, unlike the other, like, traps or the other random stuff that's out there, like there is no other win con. Like you're just always going to bank on that luck. Whereas at least with Malkador, he gets to a point where he can just make his own luck, and that's just
Yeah.
the better way to go.
And if you play Rubio, you can just turn yourself into damage.
Right.
love Rubio.
I've got a Rubio deck coming out Sunday, which by the time this comes out, it'll already
have
out.
already released.
Yeah, but Rubio is fantastic as a warlord with or without seals. Like, just his psionic fury is so fun, and then he just operates as that mid range for your deck and support with the troops and everything. Rubio is just as fun. I haven't played Iota at all. Honestly, I haven't played Iota.
She's
outside of event.
I played her only in event. Yeah,
that's it.
She's the best, but I won't play her.
I've had way more fun with Malkador and Rubio.
My logic behind not playing her is simply
This is Samus, but better.
Oh,
I didn't really like playing Samus.
True. And now the agents of the Sigilate are not allowed in World Cup. Sisters of Silence are not allowed in World Cup. But I'm
a certain Quebecois man had his way, though. The sisters would be there.
They would be in there. But talking about World Cup, ReksKolt is on Team Asia. What warlords are you playing in World Cup?
I'm using more Terra, Khorne, and Vulcan. I've been playing mid-range Vulcan throughout the whole tournament, even before DD was nerfed.
that was a smart play on your part.
Yeah.
Because I forget if you mentioned this last week, as if you had a feeling your team that DD was being nerfed shortly, because I know other teams have mentioned they had a feeling. But going in, getting used to a style that wasn't relying on one card is usually a sound tactic.
Yeah, and mid-range Vulcan is always going to be a good solid play.
Yeah, but sadly, so far he didn't prove to be quite good.
Oh, that's a shame.
Is he the weakest of your picks?
Yeah, I'd say yes.
Because mid-range Vulcan is fun to me, because Vulcan is a hard warlord to kill. Not impossible or anything, but he's coming out of the gate at essentially a 45, to which if you can't deal 2 sets of 3 damage to him in one turn, not that much damage realistically, but he's fundamentally invincible. I just find him neat. They did him good character-wise. He's enjoyable to play.
It's a shame that mid-range Vulcan isn't really working in World Tournament, though.
Well, maybe my deck is just not good and I'm not playing him well, because I don't have much experience with mid-range Vulcan.
That's always an option. That's always a possibility, but I feel like if you're where you are now, you've made your deck good. You're kind of representing Asia in the World Cup.
Yeah, and you guys are a bit, across the board, all of them, we've said it before, all of the teams in World Cup got some
teams
great
came out
players.
swinging this
Yeah, some really great, strong players. So you're playing against equal skill players, every one of you guys.
And then there's Juan.
Every one of you guys is playing just top A game stuff. So there's always going to be those matches that are just harder, and whether that's because of the warlord choice or because of the opponent. I don't know how close your games have been, but it's not just always the deck. Sometimes it's just the competition is pretty stiff.
Well, there was one very close game when I played Khorne versus Sigismund.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a bad matchup for Khorne, and I don't know how I won because, again, mostly because of luck, but my opponent was quite lucky too himself, because he got phalanx of orders from abandoned supplies, which is really hard to deal with.
Yeah.
As Khorne.
That does not sound fun.
Can you imagine getting it with the band supplies and then you had a drill site to go with it?
Yeah, and Harrenburg.
Yes.
Oh man, that combo right there would be enough to make the player just go, maybe it's worth resigning instead of suffering the next 5 additional minutes.
I gotta say, though, the one thing I would like to see with Phalanx, and I know it's probably asking too much, but I would like to see it do 1 to 2 damage to all enemy troops, or all enemy units.
Oh, the legendary card?
Yeah, just because, it's a great card, it draws cards, it gives you some Bastion. It is a huge combo move.
Better yet, the minute you play it, trigger the resolution and relentless of all troops on field. I simply want to see the turrets double fire.
That's Crucible boss level stuff. That's ridiculous.
Nah,
obviously we need to get in contact with Creed.
I think that Flakes is already strong.
It is.
It's a really good card.
The fact
I don't
that
think it needs buff.
The fact that it's essentially a 4 energy card already makes it pretty good.
Well, what it is given the 4 energy, it is not unlike just about all the other capital ship tactics that are out there. It's not a damage dealer. It is a combo support tool. It's a very, very useful, especially if you're playing it on 10 energy, or you've got, like I said, drill sites to increase your energy that you've got following the play. That's really where it comes into power. It's just one of those things where, just for me, is like it's the biggest capital ship out there. I mean, it's basically this thing, and the fact that it's doing no damage whatsoever is like, shouldn't it just do like maybe just 1 to everything? Like just a little nudge, but I don't know.
Well, it's upsetting that it doesn't deal damage. I am quite happy with its effect, though.
I am.
Because it's 3 things for 1.
Yeah.
Not only are you drawing 3 cards for... Let's be real here. Drawing 4 cards for 8 energy may not sound that good, but look at, like, Price of Victory, if you're playing it for its full cost. And it's essentially healing you for 4, right? It's 4?
Yeah,
Bastion?
Bastion 4, yep, on your Warlord.
Yeah.
And then you also get energy back to play stuff.
Yeah. So you're essentially spending 4 energy to draw 4 cards, heal 4. That's great. It would be nice to do damage, but I feel like it's perfect as is stat-wise. Yeah. Thematically, damage makes sense, though.
I mean, you can kind of deal damage with it using Stone Gauntlet.
Stone Gauntlet, what I usually use is the Shield Bash and the Sigismund. Stone Gauntlet is the other option.
I think Stone Gauntlet is more consistent and better than Shield Bash. Shield Bash to random.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Stone Gauntlet's all to a random as well. It's just better if you've got multiple units with Bastion.
Yeah.
If you just got the one, and you could play 2 Shield Bashes for 7 to a random, and there's only your enemy Warlord, and you're doing 14 damage for 2 energy, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. They both have their merits.
Yeah, exactly. The point is it's still fueled by the combo of the Phalnix.
Yeah, so it's kind of deals damage, but situationally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it helps set up for future damage, which is just as good in my opinion.
Well, has there been any big surprising matchups or Warlords that you've seen in the World Cup so far that you've come across?
Oh, well, I think that everything is going like quite predictable. There are no surprising Warlords which I'm faced so far. Everything is like according to meta.
You're telling me no one's playing DD Chaos Spawn?
Yeah.
You know, there's someone who almost brought Chaos Spawn to the World Cup, and his name is Orsenal.
Yeah, I know him.
Oh, I know. You guys share a lodge family. But that man would bring Chaos Spawn anywhere he can, and I respect it.
Yeah, Chaos Spawn is fun. I played him for a bit. And I played him in some weeklies. I think he was really fun. Yeah.
I say this a lot. He needs a special card that combines the Chaos Spawns on the field with himself to make a Colossal Chaos Spawn as like a Reckoning, kinda.
Well, that would be fun.
That would be at least something new, because they have mentioned before they want to give non-legendary warlords transformations, like Argel Tall. So I'm thinking he should get it. And Malkarion, simply because Malkarion Dreadnought is very cool.
But that's not important.
Well, after Warlord buffs, I kinda don't understand why they didn't buff Tarek's ability, like, just reduce it to 1 energy and it will be, like, 100% times better than before. Like, why didn't they do it when they buffed the Punisher and that 5 energy legendary troop?
Yeah. I don't know.
But, Everguild is a lot of, why didn't you just blank?
Yeah.
Where there's moments like, oh, this would make total sense to do it, and they didn't do it.
Or why?
Then some of their buffs come out of left field.
Yeah, or why did this happen? Who asked for that? Yeah.
I think we all had that feeling when they originally changed the las rifle APC to 1 energy put in hand and
but it
cost
makes
2 less.
Awful lot of sense now with the solar auxiliary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we talked about last episode, but as that's being lost to the warp, I guess we should probably cover the troops. And now that one of them had been nerfed, let's be real here, she got what she had coming to her.
I think it was deserved.
Yes.
Now, I don't know about you, but have you guys had 3 defense forces on the field at 7 energy?
I had
No.
2. I had 2, but I have had 3 Marcus on the field.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's awful. I do think, though, that it might need a change to, like, show you a spread of cards and you pick. Because limiting it to 5 and below, you're not getting Marcus, you're not getting Defense Force, the 2 really good infantry. You're just getting a bunch of variants of frontline. Then again, I feel like everyone would just pick the, what's it called, the 2-3?
Yeah, but Kenshiro is the best one to go with if you're going to throw him out there, because he'll make her stronger right out the gate.
Yeah.
But you're paying more to get most of the options that cost less than that, so you're actually overpaying.
Yeah.
I agree. I like if her ability cost 1 less energy for the same pool, I'd be fine
Like
with
3
that.
energy.
It's a pretty big buy at this point. It feels like it's too much, but at the same time, if I could get a Kenshiro every turn, and in
every turn.
and in certain games, that might not be a bad thing, especially if I'm playing Ornitov and I can give Kenshiro frontline. The Kenshiro that I just created, and then here's a frontline Kenshiro. And then he's buffing her in the background. I mean, that's not a great way to play every game because there's hard removal options, but
Yeah.
it is an option.
But eventually it's just going to snowball.
But yeah, as she was creating Defense Force,
It was
creating Aurelius,
fundamentally broken.
it was not a good idea.
No.
And as a rare, she was outshining like the epics and the legendaries.
I wonder if she would be better if they added like any Solar Auxilia 5 energy and below, because I'm pretty sure that would generate the new APC as well, which could be nice. Oh well.
And yeah, out of those new cards, I think that strategic reserves, the 3 energy tactics that draws 2 infantry troops and gives them +1/+1, and reduces their cost by 1 if their solar auxilia, is another very strong card, I think, which might receive some changes in the future.
Yeah,
definitely.
We talked about that because it was a little buggy, but also it was like, this card does an awful lot for 3.
No, and the worst part about it too is you think about it, it's like, oh, so much neutral synergy. They just released a new faction that's all infantry who are already pretty good.
So Sisters of Silence playing that card is actually scary.
And the one thing that that Kroll didn't actually have was card draw, but now we can give that to her.
And she's going to pull pretty much exactly what she needs.
I think it should also work well with Agents of Sigilite, because they also have infantry
They have
troops.
a lot of infantry troops.
They're assassins, yeah.
Yeah.
They have very little Astartes. Well, I say very little. But like half their troops are Astartes and then half are infantry.
Yeah, I think you're probably going to have 4 to maybe 6 most Astartes in your deck. I mean, they've got some good Astartes, but you're not going to run them all. So you're going to have a higher volume of infantry than anything else.
Yeah, and their infantries that they do have are either perfectly statted or overstatted. So there's no reason not to run them. I still love that comparison of the Ultramarines Honor Guard being inferior to some Imperial Guard guy.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Well,
I love that so much. It's so dumb.
That's why he's in Malkador's circle, man. He was so good. He was so courageous. He wasn't even in Astartes, and Malkador's like, you know what? I see great potential.
You're promoted.
Yeah. He joined me.
This reminds me, though, we have the Solar Auxilia, and we still don't have Masad as a warlord. A character who's only ever mentioned in, like, 1 black book, but everything that talks about him makes him out to be one of the greatest Imperial Guard characters that we have, or Imperial Army at the time. Yet we don't have him in game, or even any art of him. Well, you know about Masad at all, Scuff?
No, I have not followed that. Is that in the Siege of Terra?
No, he's in one of the black books for the tabletop.
Oh,
It's just a mentioned
I haven't read any of the tabletop books.
Essentially, he was a general of the Solar Auxilia who led alongside Horus when Horus was still loyal, and he was given his own planet to rule over. And when the Horus Heresy kicked off, he was kind of staying out of it, but his granddaughter died. And the first thing he did was he took complete control over the planet again and just went on a crusade against Horus and kicked back the Dark Mechanicum.
And he's a cool character because he wears like an exosuit because he's he's 200 years old and crippled. So he wears like an exoskeleton. He's a very neat character that I'm hoping we get eventually as like the legendary warlord for the what are they called? Solar Auxilla.
Yeah, I wonder if we're going to get any new neutral warlords. So far, we haven't seen. I mean, granted, we're still just in the new neutral release, but like for reinforcements today was the army veteran or the army sergeant, right? We've seen him before.
Who is one of my favorite characters.
I want us to get Oleanus Pius as a warlord. Yeah.
That he was 220 resolution gain 2 survivor, correct?
Yeah.
Or is it?
It was, and he had like a 1 or 2 energy ability that lets you return a troop to your hand,
or ping for like 2 damage. I think.
Right, it was something like that. Like it was just the ability to like free survivor every turn was pretty nice.
Mm-hmm. He would be. I realize he wouldn't be that broken. Theoretically, if you survived like 10 turns, you'd become a 240. I feel like bouncing could become a problem.
Well, it could, but that's really unlike which is unlike all the other army warlords. It would be a completely unique ability because all the army warlords have basically a way to either play troops with energy, like higher energy or reduced cost, or frontline, some sort of combination in there. The exception being the Kalitas Assassin, who can get those abilities, but she can also get other abilities. So he would just have a completely different way to interact with his troops. No frontline involved in there, no energy manipulation, and then you could play something completely different. I don't know. It could be curious. It could be interesting to see.
Yeah. I still want Imperial Army Sergeant just to be a warlord because, man, is he fun to play in events. Turning timed melt-a-bomb into a board wipe is always nice.
Well, that's what Fail is for. Like, if you want Sergeant, just move up in rank and get Fail.
See, I like Fail, but
Fail doesn't give me a little frontline guy when I need him, and Fail doesn't have the voice line of, I've only been scared 3 times, I think he says, in my life, and this is not one of them. That line is amazing.
I love Army Sergeant.
Well, speaking of which, I think he got added as a reinforcement to the current event.
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
Oh man, is he fun to play?
Him and then Korvax's Utter Blight on the Chaos side.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the new event. Let's talk about, because I know we mentioned it when we were having our Lost in the Warp discussion last week.
Yeah, we were discussing the rewards for the game.
Yes, the rewards. Yeah, so we've got the legendary if the loyalists win, which I think they're going to, and then we've got the chaos one, which would have been interesting to see, but I'm kind of glad we're not seeing that added to the game.
Yeah,
because of some possible busts to aggro and possible broken combination with Spell Spear of Alpha Legion.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh man, I did not want to see Endless Alpha Legion. And I thought of the combo the other day of what could make it so he would win every time. And I forget if it's a Terminator's or Hydra's Eye, where it's every time you draw, they take 1 damage.
Mm-hmm.
Combining that with this Pale Spear would just be game over for your opponent.
Yeah, unless it was like by the time you played it, you had no cards in your deck. But even then, I mean, it was a little bonkers. And then the fact that card came out so close to Khorne's Chosen and so close to, some of the other cards like the Lord Castellan. Like, I mean, I know they made changes on Lord Castellan fairly quickly, but it's like it's been a very tumultuous couple of weeks. Like, there's a lot of stuff being thrown out there. You're like, did they look at this? Did they give it a second thought?
Yeah, it feels like some of the decisions were rushed. Yeah.
And when you rush it, you don't get good balance. And I mean, then you get a lot of people who are wondering what the heck is going on. Why are all these cards so crazy?
Yeah, and talking about single mode, I think the longer they're not going to release it, the bigger the holes they are digging for themselves, because people will start to expect more and more from this new mode because of how much time it's been in development.
Well, I think that that's the thing for me is like I don't know. I'm not holding my breath for it. I don't know what it is or what's going to be, but there's at this point I don't think there's any way they could meet my expectations. We're going to get it when we get it, and if we do, and when we do, I'll be like, and that's it. Like that's what we waited so long for. Okay.
They said too much and showed too little.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the new game mode will disappoint a lot of people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's probably going to be something dumb like PvE event or something. Like no matter what we get, it's not going to be what we expected because they've not told us what it's going to be. They just keep adding features to it.
That'll be included in it somehow, but we won't tell you how. Yes, exactly.
The new game mode, that alternative gem usage and new shop. Cool. What's the new game mode though? That's a good question.
And somehow it incorporates lodges, and it also incorporates, the second use for the expenditure of gems. But we don't know how that's going to be. But it's not the extra draft mode. It's not draft mode. That's not what the new mode is. It's not the 2 extra things added to the shop, which I don't know if we talked about last week.
I think we mentioned it. It's nice to see. It did throw my data off whack a bit though, which is unfortunate.
The shop predictions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was getting close enough where it's like, I can start predicting the epics fairly accurately. Not anymore. So I need to re-go through everything. But besides that, it's like, this is nice. We need a third shop though, desperately.
I think that the one thing for me that I dislike about it, and it's nice that it's something, right? It's 2 extra cards. I don't like the fact that it's 2 extra cards, but it's still the same 1 legendary, 1 card back, 1. It doesn't. You might as well just give me 3 extra commons, or give me 5 extra commons. If you're only going to give the 1 legendary, then you really haven't done anything to help the shop for people who are trying to get those key cards. Because the rotation is still the problem.
Oh, it's crazy. Because it's like 14 days now for a faction to fully rotate. And then they have how many legendary cards on average?
6 or 7.
5?
I think 6.
They have 5.
Well, yeah, not counting the Warlord, yeah.
Yeah, not counting the Warlord, they have 5. So that's 14 days times 5. That's 70 days.
Yeah.
You have to wait 70 days to finish a faction on legendaries, assuming you grabbed it the first day and then waited. That is too much.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there's some epic cards that don't even rotate properly. You guys might have heard of a user called Zacharias. He's one of the tournament organizers. I'm pretty sure he's the guy leading World Cup right now.
Yes, yep.
Yes.
Very cool dude, good buddy. He was waiting for Shield Generator, I think it's called, for ever since it's released. It's never been in shop.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Seriously, and it just dropped a month ago.
The neutrals are the biggest problem because their card pool is so massive. I mean, just Imperial Army, Chaos, or Mechanicum, just one of those is 3 times the size of a Legion card pool. So the odds of them rotating and getting all the cards in the shop for you'd have to have that 70 days and then times that by 3, but because there's so many of them, you're not guaranteed that you're going to see the epics in that you want. You could get them all, or you could get one of them in the 70 days, and then they go back and double up. We don't see cards like Jubok or Melgator in the shop all that often, as legendaries go. I mean, for the Imperial Army. But that's also because when it comes to the neutrals, there's 3 neutral factions, and there's a lot of legendaries in it. There's more than just the 5. So it's really frustrating, and it's not great for new players. It's not great for somebody who's looking for those key cards for the support. Like I said, it's great that we got 2 extra cards, but it is nowhere near what I think the player base needs, especially the newer players, need to see added to the shop.
The easy solution would be one of those cards is an epic and the other is a legendary. And now suddenly finishing a faction seems believable in a reasonable amount of time. So I remember I missed Dekel once, or the Dreadnought for the Salamanders. His name is escaping me. All I know is he's Dak, and
right.
I missed him because my power cut about 30 minutes before I went to go buy him, and then I missed him because the shop reset. Broke my heart. I had to wait 60... This was when it was still 12 days. I I had to wait 62 days for him to fully rotate just to grab him. And by the time it fully came around, I didn't care about salamanders anymore. So it is way too much time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that 4 legendaries in the shop would be like a good solution to this problem.
Just 2 legendaries would make it so the shop rotates twice. Right
I mean 4 legendaries overall.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or better yet, I mean...
Yeah, that's what I mean.
They've done it in the past. It has been a long time since they've done it. But you remember they used to do in like every now and then, like every other weekend, there would be like the demons, and it would be all the greater demons in the shop. And you could pick...
Oh, I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Like, why not just have like once... We've got the deck of the weekend special, whatever it is, Alt Art or, Primarch or whatever.
For example, you could have one that just says War Gear.
Yeah.
It's the War Gears.
Why not? Why not just have like, hey, it's Legendary Day. It's every Sunday is Legendary Day. So there's going to be 10 legendaries in the store to choose from, all the different factions. Like, so if you haven't spent your 1,600 gems, especially if you're a newer player, through the course of the week, save up and at least have 1,600. You're going to get something that you're going to want, most likely. That could be a good way to go about doing that. But they haven't done a shop themed thing. Like, they even used to do that with Warlords, which was a great way.
The Warlords one weren't that long ago.
No, we had one recently. I want to say, when I say recently, I think like a month or 2 ago. Was it February? Was it that far back?
I want to say it was March at the
I feel like March
earliest.
I feel like March sometime. But
yeah.
I mean, do those more often. Like those, because people want to play the Warlords. I counted today, there's 114 Warlords in the game. That's not counting alt arts, and that's not counting the different ways to do knights with pilots. There's just 4 pilots. But that's 114 Warlords. That's a lot. And if you're only putting 1 Warlord in the shop at a time, maybe 2, your players, I mean, I guess the pro side of that is when you get a Warlord, you only need to have 1, so you don't have to worry about duplicates or anything like that, getting 2 copies of a Warlord. But that's a lot of Warlords that your players aren't getting to play the factions with if they're not in the store.
Yeah, it's exactly great. The system is fundamentally broken. And even then, gems is a feature to like, it doesn't really help newer players because you don't really earn gems as a newer player. Like you will start earning gems,
right? But and
then it's trickle fed.
The pool is so big, it takes much longer for you to get duplicates to start getting gems from those cards. That is correct. Yeah, it's not great. I'd like to see some improvements. I know we've gotten some.
Don't worry, Scott. They'll come in the new game.
Yeah, I don't want to be confused though. Don't confuse me with it.
Oh man.
Also, I remembered about the unusual warlords in the World Cup. Konstantin, who I'm playing against this round, he's using Hamon, which I didn't expect to see. I thought that he'll use either Valder or Nassau, yeah.
I feel like if you're going to name yourself after Konstantin Valdor, you may as well learn to play all of them. Amon is solid. He's not perfect, but he's a real shake-up when you don't expect them.
Yes, and that's what I said, because like he was playing mostly Nassau and Valdor. I didn't see him playing Hamon yet.
I like Amon a lot. I don't like how his name is shared with the Thousand Suns character.
Yeah, you have to make that distinction. You have to say, Custodes Amon? Amon Terramachian?
At least they're parts of separate legions, because nothing annoys me more than Har and Dar.
Oh.
Because they're both world eaters.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to talk to them in conversation, when you're trying to refer to them, and one of them is AAR and the other is ARR, I get them mixed up. So
I wonder when the Black Library authors are kind of sitting around, they have that table, and is that a joke with like Hardar,
Hardar,
get over here, Hardars. You better call up Hardar. That's what they were named by Angron, because he was just so angry. He's like, "Har, dar, roar."
Hey, if it works, it works. There are some factions with really bad naming systems. Oh man. And then there's some characters in this game alone that are just like two cards that are the same person but named differently. Like the Word Bearers have that, where I'm pretty sure Dark Apostle and one of the Sores, I forget if it's a little Sore or Big Sore, are the same character.
It's Big Sore, yeah.
Yeah, Big Sore, Talgaron or something like that. His name is escaping me.
Yeah, he's actually the same as on the Dark Art for the Dark Apostle. Yep. Yeah, that is correct.
And then the neutral is Cabin Machine, whatever.
Kaban Machine is also Abominable Intelligence. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what is fun is that I heard that the Possessed Marine, the 6th energy of Word Bearers, is actually an art of a Vault Eater.
Yes, actually, yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But because the red's the same, they just went, all right, it's fine. You can't see his heraldry, so you can just assume.
Yeah, plus there was some confusion for me when the card back of Death Guard Dreadnought, I think.
Oh, yeah. Not Dreadnought, but I know what you're talking about, the Viridian armor?
It's the same
like
as... Yeah, it's green, and it's the same as Dark Angels for Energy Phalanx.
There's some reusing that happens that's pretty weird that I don't understand. And then there's some that have been really annoying me, like what they tag certain things as. For example, you know the Mechanicum troop that has a backlash destroy an enemy vehicle?
Yeah.
It is a Skitari with a gun. It is labeled as a vehicle. The Skitari is a person. But
I also didn't understand that.
You know the 4/6 with the relentless to remove stealth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's an infantry. The new troop we just got, the 2/3, is the exact same thing, but it's a vehicle. They're the exact same thing. Yet one's a vehicle, one's an infantry.
Oh, is it 2/3?
Or you know what I'm talking. The 2 energy.
Yeah, the 2/4.
Yeah, 2/4.
Oh,
actually,
yeah.
The new Mechanicum troop that has the act again gain 1/1. It is the exact same thing as that 4/6, yet one's an infantry and one's a vehicle.
Yes, that's strange.
I really don't understand Everguild's logic between what gains vehicle, what gains structure, what gains whatever. Because robots are vehicles. You can't drive a robot.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
There are robotic infantry, like Cyborg, but they're still, it's like the Cyber Mastiffs, like the Beasts of Fire. They're infantry, but they're clearly not.
There needs to be subtags. Like, you not go where it's like, oh, we have a tag for like essentially each enemy type, but it could be infantry / beast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For example, the Word Bearers essentially have that with Astartes / demon, so you know it's a demon Astartes. You could have that for the robots, because there's plenty of automatons.
There's a lot of the just like we got cultists and we got the Solar Auxilia.
Yes.
One additional keyword, especially when it's repeated enough, leads a lot open for playstyles and deck construction. It's not just, okay, well, here's a keyword like infantry and troop and structure and vehicle and demon. Okay, but if you have those, just like we were talking just a little bit ago about the tactics, when you make those differences clear, teaching, trap, secret order, theoretical, practical. If you want to go one step further, and like the Ultramarines do, where they've got troops that create practicals or theoreticals, they've got warlords who do the same too. Like, it creates that unique synergy, that unique feel. But if you had somebody who was like the beasts, and then you're like, I'm going to play a beast deck. Here's a warlord who can do beasts of Pythos, or how about all the cyber mastiffs with the Sisters of Silence? Maybe there was a Sisters of Silence warlord who beasts gain +1/+1 when you put them in play, and then suddenly you can make a deck very thematic that has a support, because you're using those keywords. Now that's just going on that tangent, but I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot to add a new layer just by adding
a new word.
Yeah, making something that's already there a keyword, making it consistent.
Because right now we have plenty of keywords, except they don't cover everything. Astartes, that covers Astartes. Infantry. When you think of infantry, you think of like soldiers and such. Vehicles, structures.
You got Titan weapon, you've got custodes.
Yeah.
And
demons. But then what does an animal go under?
Yeah.
Infantry? Yeah. I wouldn't really call an animal an infantry.
Yeah, they did that with Beast of Fear.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Monster of Phyros, I believe its name is, or
Pythos, yeah.
Pythos, there. And then there's the robots, like the automatas. You don't drive them, so they're not a vehicle. You could call them an infantry, but then they lose any like synergy with not being organic. And they're not a structure because they can move. So you just label them as a vehicle.
Oh, sorry, I kinda named the troop wrongly. Beast of Fear is a demon, and I was meaning the 6-4, which gains stealth. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the monster of Pythos. That's a fun tactic, but I mean fun trick, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it works really well with the Defenders of Caliban. And, the 5 energy Astartes that gives can act again to infantry.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that could get you a good 12 damage because he's going to hide a turn. We need more tags. Just as even a side tag like infantry/beast or like vehicle/cybernetic or something. Because even some of them is not only are they labeled as a vehicle when they're not such, but they're a cyborg. So really, they're an infantry. That's a lot of the AdMech vehicles, where it's like, okay, what's this vehicle? Well, it's a robot, but there's a human in there, just in pieces. Kind of like a servitor, because the AdMech are like that.
Yeah, servitor as infantry makes sense, but when you get into the cyborg thing, especially where it is like the... it is basically a brain in the case of the robot. Is it really an infantry or is it a vehicle?
Well,
is it really a vehicle? Problem. Like, I mean, are we just saying vehicles have got to have wheels and tank treads, or is it something else altogether?
Now that makes sense if EG would be even consistent in that, because like the 6-4 and the 2-4,
right?
They're both the exact same thing, a head in a jar. Essentially, but one's an infantry and one's a vehicle. And let's be real here, we know the reason why the 2-4 is a vehicle. It's so you can't escape Venet.
Yes, yeah.
That's the only reason.
Yeah. Makes sense to me. I'm okay with it, but there are those
balancing
things.
wise.
Yeah.
But it doesn't explain the thing of why it's the same thing.
And there are those nuances too, where it's like, for the sake of the game, they make sense whether they work or not. Like, demons are in the chaos card pool, and they're demons and they're playable, they're neutrals for everything. Playing demons in a Custodes deck doesn't feel right. I mean, and honestly, I think most of the best Custodes decks don't play demons, but you might throw in like Eerie the Seducer every now and then, depending on certain matchups.
Playing cultists in a Salamander deck feels wrong.
It does. It's like, that's not the whole drive. And there's been players over the years who have raised those concerns because it's not thematic to the world. But at the same time, we only have 3 neutral card pools, and the Chaos card pool has an awful lot of very multi-purpose damage tactics and non-damage tactics.
A lot of the tech cards are Chaos,
yes, actually. So if you just limited those to only traitor forces, you would really be hamstringing the loyalists. So, I mean, there's no right way to do it. I don't think when it comes to that, at least in the scale of the game as it is now. I think if it was a slightly bigger game, if it was a print, if we had maybe 60 card decks, slightly bigger board options, or maybe different Warlord health options, we could see the game go in different places, and you could dive into those areas. You could dive into a couple extra keywords. You could dive into play areas. Instead of having random generated stuff, you could have, play zones, looking at the top cards of decks, actually shuffling a deck or manipulating a discard pile, as opposed to it just having a graveyard out there somewhere that there's very little cards that interact with it. I think Father Decay is probably the best example of a card that actually works with the graveyard. That would be a different game, and we'd be playing a different game, and we'd be talking about a different game. But we're not there. Maybe one day.
Maybe with a new game mode.
Well, talking about games, like I find two mechanics in other CCG cards about it's a card collection game about World War II. I find it more interesting because it's more troop based, and there's a frontline mechanic which kind of you have three lines, one for each headquarter, which is basically your warlord, but it doesn't have attacks, it just has HP, and that's all. And front lines. Yeah, and there are like certain types of troops, like infantry, tanks, bombers, artillery, and fighters, and they each have different types of how they can act. For example, infantry can either attack or move during each turn, only once. Tanks can both attack and move at the same time during one turn. Artillery kind of has sneak attack, but it can also attack like both lines, not only front line but also the enemy supply line, and bombers kinda act the same, but they are blocked by fighters, so kinda
rock, paper, scissors.
yeah, and they also don't attack when they are attacked. And fighters are basically artillery, but they take damage when they are attacking. And I like that you need to spend energy in order to move or to attack there, because it adds a little more depth to the gameplay. And one card that I really like to, like, I know the games are different, but one of the cards, Soviet cards, which is similar to Sigil is Chosen. It's also a buff. For 3 energy, you buff your infantry or tank +5/+5, but the cost of acting also increases by 5. So it's I like this. Like, you get a massive buff, but you also pay a price, a lot of energy to do it, and it works you can kind of make it work even without spending energy on acting when you move your troop into front line, so your enemy can't attack your base without taking the front line back, unless he has fighters or some other troops that can attack without being in the front line. And you kind of don't need to spend energy, because your enemy will have to spend resources to kill your troop in the front line. And I don't like Sigil is Chosen because I think it's too overstated of a buff.
Yeah, it needs to lower part of it down.
Yeah, or
as is, it's just way too much for not enough. Like, there's no downside to it.
Yeah, I think that adding downside would be really cool, like how I described with that Soviet buff in the cards.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe your troop should, I don't know, maybe like attack enemy troops each turn, or dice.
Yeah,
or
you give it something out there. Like, I mean, if he kept the stats as it was, the 3/3 and the survivor, but you gave it, I mean, the only negatives out there, you could give it Sentinel, and that which for that faction would be very punishing because they need their cards, so they'd have to play Chosen a lot more wisely. I think that would probably see Chosen not included in decks for that reason.
Yeah, I think that Sentinel is a really cool way to make this card more balanced.
Sentinel, just even if it was, you would delay his turn if you used it. So it's either you're buffing it beforehand, so it's got to be a cheaper card you cast it on, or you're just not using it at all. Yeah. But, instead we have our current iteration, which, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's not exactly flawed.
No, it's predictable at this point. I mean, like, you play a game with the Agents of Sigil. I mean, you've got your stealth troops, but if your troops are on the board don't have stealth, your opponents really try not to let you keep them around. For good reason, because there's always that possibility that troop is about to get pumped up with the Sigil that's chosen. Or you keep that sabotage on hand. You're going to take 6, but then they're going to lose it. You sabotage it, or you stun with silent death and poison. It's hard to hit when it comes out right at 4 energy, though. That's gonna leave some hurt.
Yeah, and don't forget that while sabotage is direct counter to Sigil's Chosen, it kind of depends on RNG whether you will get it in hand in the right time or not.
Correct. Yeah. Yep. Well, speaking of other games, because you were talking about cards with a K, we talk about other games and stuff that you do when you're not playing Legion. So what else do you do?
Recently I've started enjoying the Ace Combat series. Really cool games. I got invested into them through when I heard one of the soundtrack from the Ace Combat sound on YouTube. I came up to it by accident, and when I heard it, I couldn't believe it, that it's from a arcade aviation game. Like it sounds like some music from Hollywood movie. And then I also started, almost finished playing Project Wingman in New Game Plus sort of difficulty. I'm currently at the final boss, and he's really difficult. The game was made by in a small team of Ace Combat fans, and as I've seen in one of the comments under the soundtrack of Project Wingman, you can say that this game was made by Ace Combat fans for Ace Combat fans.
That's a good sign. It's made with love.
Yeah, and you can just basically describe the Ace Combat series in a sentence that it's Metal Gear Solid but with planes.
Which, I mean, is enough to sell it to me, and I have played them. They are fun.
Yeah, it was enough to sell it for me too. I really like the story of the world in it. It's really there's a country which when it was losing a war, just to not let its opponents get land of it, it just sent 7 nukes on itself.
Which, I mean, hey, if it works, it works.
Yeah, and
sounds like a crazy end game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's something similar in Project Wingman also.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The entire map turns orange for the rest of the game.
Yeah. I remember there were a lot of memes about orange.
Oh man, it is all orange.
How about you, Axel? What you been doing?
What have I been doing? I've beaten what's it called? Hired Gun. That was a fun time. Definitely a good game.
I am on the 7th mission, the Necromunda Hired Gun. I haven't beaten it yet.
Yeah, it is a good game.
Yeah, I enjoy it. We talked about that a little bit last week when we lost our recording, but it's a first-person shooter. I'm not a huge first-person shooter player. I'm not great at them, but I mean, it visually catches, like, the setting feels like a hive, an underhive. It's really fun.
Perfect.
The weapons are fun. The upgrades are cool. I'm having fun playing it.
Mm-hmm. I'm having a blast.
Literally. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah. I played just because, just for the gameplay, because it looks kind of like Doom Eternal inspired. Yeah, and I enjoyed playing Doom Eternal a lot. So, if there are games that will have gameplay similar to it, well,
very similar.
Yeah, I think I'll enjoy it.
Yeah. It's a fun shooter. It controls good. It didn't come out perfect. Like, there was some issues with it, but after a while they've patched it. It runs better.
Yeah, I think they had similar problems with their previous game. Yeah, with Space Hulk Deathwing.
Mm-hmm. That's just kind of the way that they roll, I guess, at this point.
I also don't think like a lot of people heard about it, but this studio also made I Divine Cybermancy. Which is also a cool game.
Oh, it's a cool game, but it's not one of those games that are. I don't want to say it's a bad game because that's just not right.
Not for everyone.
It's definitely. You know what? It's German. That's all we're gonna say.
Yeah.
It's one of those games. It's good.
Yeah, I played it for a bit and I enjoyed it.
You can tell it was made with love. What kind of love is the real question.
The special kind.
The worst kind.
Well, moving on, I guess, kind of wrapping it all up. Do we have anything to plug? We want to talk about plugs. Rex, do you got anything to plug?
Oh, well, I would say thanks to my friend who got me into Warhammer universe because, well, as I said previously, I can't imagine like how it changed a lot my life, and I got to know a lot of people through Warhammer, and he helped me a lot to learn about the universe in general.
You'd probably be addicted less. It might actually have been an upside to not have learned about this.
Well, I can say that I'm addicted to this universe. I'm mostly like reading lore about it, and that's all. It's not like I'm addicted to tabletop game or something.
No, just having a good setting to really immerse yourself in and read the lore. That's nice.
Yeah, and it also helped me like to transition from Star Wars to Warhammer because like around that time I think the new trilogy of Star Wars movies came out, and we don't talk
he's
about
saying
them.
the words that trigger scuff.
We don't talk about them.
Yeah, it's a good time to transition away from Star Wars, I think. I mean, I like Star Wars. I grew up with it and everything, but there's a certain age or a certain point where you hit, especially with the new stuff that's come out, where you feel better about moving on. Like, there's just, and I think that goes with a lot of fandom stuff. Like, there's just some things, like at some point when you're into it, and something, either it's a new series, it's a new saga, it's a new season, whatever it is, and you're just like, you know what, I'm good leaving it as I had it, and I'll step into something else. And that's, I mean, I know the 40K is starting to go with that now as it moves into the Dark Millennium stuff, and there's probably people who are, and we've talked to a few people who miss the Grim Dark. I'm one of those too. I miss kind of the Grim Dark stuff, but that's why I'm reading Horus Heresy. Like, I don't have to worry about the canon changing in 41st Millennium right now. I'm still enjoying the Heresy Saga stuff.
Yes, that's why I prefer Horus Heresy more than 40K, because it's not as grim dark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a lot of lore there, and the stories have an overall arc. I mean, there's things that happen in between them, but Warhammer 40K is like everything's falling apart. It doesn't matter. This story is just a story that is one of billions, and it doesn't really have any, like, if you read a sequel
on this
to
planet
it,
will have no consequences.
Exactly. Like, you could pick up another book and they won't even have a clue as far as what happened in the last 20 books that you read because it doesn't matter to them.
Mm-hmm. Which, isn't exactly good.
Yeah. No, but it's for what it is. I mean, that makes sense because that's the whole setting. Is if we just had a setting where we didn't have armies that fight each other, then we wouldn't be able to sell armies.
Exactly.
One of the new things from 40K that I didn't like is Primaris Marines. I think they're just like a lazy move.
Either, but they grew on me.
They feel like a lazy move to just sell more figures.
Oh, definitely. But I was in the same boat where I was just not a big fan of them, but eventually just like their design, like just them in general just grew on me. Maybe like a cancer grew on me, but it grew on me.
I mean, they feel too futuristic for me.
Yeah. I really like Heresy era armor, but their like newer armor just, you can tell that they're definitely like upping the quality, because I looked at the old Dark Eldar models the other day, and I felt sad.
Oh yeah, when
Dark Eldar,
when the Dark Eldar, when they got their plastic line finally, was it 2010, 2011 maybe? I don't know, whatever it was when they finally got their new plastic stuff. That was like a breath of fresh air, and it was like, man, well deserved, because
before then, oh my, like look at Scourges.
Yes,
Scourges. Scourges used to be guys with jetpacks.
You had to be a certain type of player who enjoyed pain, like literally to play with those models. You're like, I really do like what this army does to me.
It was a mistake.
Yeah.
Could you explain to me what was wrong with the models?
I'll see if I can find some art while Axel's talking to you about it.
They don't look the way they should, like the way they're explained in lore and the such. You can tell that the when they were being designed, they didn't really have an end goal, if that makes sense. Because Scourges are described as these half bird, half Eldar people, right? Their models were just dudes in jetpacks. Their current models are these like giant wings and like they have talons and stuff. They were basically still at the time where they were just Eldar reskinned. So, what's the difference? Oh, we colored their armor black and we added a spike.
Black or purple, yeah.
Yeah, black or purple. Well, they had green variant stuff. Yeah, that was the old Scourges. I'm going to pull up the new Scourges real quick.
We're looking at an old Scourge image just from a quick link on the Gurgle.
I don't know.
But they also like, obviously with metal figures in general, you're limited on posing. But on top of that, I mean, with the images that you're looking at, these are the better paintings that players have done because they're metal and because they're really older metal. The posing was limited, and it was hard to paint them so you could see the details. So the armies didn't look great at all. Like the witches were probably your best standouts, or their skimmers. You could do their raider, the skiffs or whatever they call them, and those could stand out really nice. But that was really about it. Like there's a big difference between the old and the new. And then when they made the new models, not only did they make updated models of existing older plastics, but they also then were able to do new units that we started getting, like the I don't know what are they called, the hulking brutes or whatever that have basically been experimented on and mutated into these giant the grotesques.
Yeah,
you get the grotesques, or then you get the wraiths. They're not called wraiths, but you know what I'm talking about, the mutant under creatures. They're like half dead, with the scythes, and they've kind of got the green, and they've got the flesh for their flesh cloaks.
I know what you're talking about. I can't remember their names. I don't know much about the Dark Eldar. I've seen their models, and I enjoy the bits of lore I do know about them.
Yeah,
I can't remember the names of the units.
I forget the names. It's been a while, but I mean, like, in all, it was a very refreshing. Like, finally, this army that has been outdated for the longest time. When they made plastics, it was kind of like, I mean, I can't say it's kind of like, because when Sisters of Battle were all metal army until just recently when they finally did plastics. But those at least had bolters that looked like the modern bolter. They had power armor that looked like the modern power armor. They were in line with current stuff. The plastics just gave them a little bit more posability and some better details. But the Eldar line was always kind of rough and harkened back to like way back in the day. And you play it side by side next to the new Tyranid armies or the new Imperial Guard, even playing against the Kadishan army. Like, it just looks like you have to have special pride to play that army with the old models. And I've seen people play old Sentinel models, like Rogue Trader Sentinel models on tabletop, and I don't know if they do it just because they're showing off or because they just don't want to buy a new model. But the old Sentinel models are probably some of the most garish ones and they're not terrible. I mean, there's worse ones out there, but compared to what the new model looks like, you're like, yeah, I'd pass on that. I wouldn't include that.
You know what I do think looks terrible, though? Subjugator Titans. Because I'm just going through old models.
Oh, yeah.
Subjugator Titans, which I'm going to post its full model in case you've never seen it, Rex. It is not a pretty thing to look at. That is not what I think of when I think of the word Titan. It doesn't, look at some of the Khorne-possessed Titans and stuff. You can at least see, oh man, old Sentinels. Oh, buddy.
Yeah, we're just Googling images of crappy models and sharing them. It's cringe. And that's actually a really good paint job. These are good paint jobs on really shitty models. I want to make that clear. Because
someone put in the work. We're not laughing at bad painting.
No,
we're laughing at bad models.
The paint is fantastic. They're doing their best that they can, but the model itself is just no, thank you, ma'am.
No bueno. Because you can especially see when you go back to the Rogue Trader era, they really just said this is fantasy, but in space.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, is it called Wraith Guards or Wraith Lords? The Eldar, giant.
Yeah, the Wraith Lords, yeah.
Wraith Lords were just mechs. There was a pilot in there. Dreadnoughts were piloted. They weren't intuitive.
Yeah, I remember.
They had I remember, I don't have the models, I have to look up for it, but there was, for quite a while, there was Eldar who could ride space dragons, because in fantasy, the Eldar could have a dragon mount, and that was actually it's the Exodites. Wasn't it an Exodite, an Eldar Exodite? Yeah. So I mean, it's come a long way. Oh
man, I just found the baby Subjugator Titans, the Scouts. I forgot they existed too.
That's just so bad, man. It's good painting, but just a bad model. It looks like a fish. It looks like a fish head with
now
arms.
I want you to look at that paint. Now I'm going to grab a painting or an art of what a Scout Titan actually looks like for Chaos nowadays. And I want you to compare those two images I just posted. For those at home, I sent a Warhound Titan.
Yeah.
They don't even look remotely the same.
I also really like the fact how this one is on a normal standard infantry troop base. That's the scaling was so off. It's so bad.
It's small.
Yeah. We've come a long way, guys.
We did. We really did. And I'm going to hit you with something even worse. Remember what the Subjugator looked like? This is what a Chaos Khorne Titan looks like. Did it sound right? Yeah, it did. So, that's what a Chaos Khorne Titan looks like. So why does Flanesh's one look not even like a Titan? What is the logic here? I don't understand.
I don't know.
Yeah, it looks completely different.
Old 40k was weird.
Yeah, but I think it had its charm.
I agree.
It had its charm until you looked at the Demon Princes. Oh my god, did the Demon Princes...
Oh yeah, I remember how Magnus looked.
He was just a Cyclops.
Yeah.
He was actually... My favorite one out of all of them is Angron, who was just a Bloodthirster. He was not even... I think he was a lesser demon, too. There was nothing going on there. And then Mortarion was just the Grim Reaper.
Well, I mean, Angron in 40k, I think he's kinda there just to get beaten up by someone.
Yeah, but he looks pretty cool.
Yeah. Kind of like the King in the overall Warhammer.
Oh yeah, Avatar of Cain. That thing just exists to die at this point.
Yeah, the same as with Lucius. Lucius, I'm the best swordsman, yet he lost so many battles.
He loses more than he wins, but he's immortal, so it doesn't matter at the end. My God, I just found what the old Khorne Titans looked like.
Well, before we dive too deep into the image files that people who are listening at home can't see, I'll just go ahead and
name it real quick for those at home. Quickly, do me a favor and Google Banelord Epic, because that was what it was called back then.
Well, it's from an Epic. It was from the Epic line, yeah. But
that means it's not looking too pretty.
I'm gonna shake my head sadly at that. I never played Epic. I thankfully missed out on that. I'm not complaining that I missed out on Epic. I did miss playing BFG though. Some of the specialist games I just didn't get into by the time they canceled that. Maybe they'll bring that back one day. They've been doing some specialist games. You never know. But in the meantime,
and the video games did fine.
I'm gonna plug deck slots because, as I said, we have 114 warlords in the game. We actually only have 108 slots. So there's a whole row of 6 warlords that don't have enough slots for them. Plus, we're going to be getting 4th warlords here. We need deck slots. If you like deck slots, let EG know. Let them know that you need those slots. I'll also plug Bar Knight Legions. By the time you hear this, the most recent Bar Knight Legions will be done. However, if you're playing in the European continent or the Asia side, I know time zones are totally different. The next Bar Knight Legions that I'm going to be scheduling will be the end of June, and I plan on having that scheduled to start 4 to 5 hours sooner, so that should be easier, more of an evening time for everybody on the European side to participate. So keep your ears tuned to the tournament channel for that on Discord, and join us for some casual B-tier play and some drinks and chats and fun times. We're just playing for the sake of having a good time, and that's always the spirit. So
aim for fun. That does remind me though about plugs. Normally I don't have much to plug, but this time I do. A fan of the podcast reached out to me recently about my many ways to acquire books. If you want to read the Horus Heresy series and you're short on cash or just can't get them where you live and you want the books, message me and I will give them to you. It's as easy as I've had someone reach out for them from who listens to the podcast. If you guys want to read the books, because the books are good, I have them. The crab will give his gifts.
He can't say how he has them or how
I can't tell you how, or maybe it's cursed, maybe it's heresy, but you will get them.
Somehow, some way, he'll make it happen. There you go.
Exactly.
All right, well, Rex, thank you for joining us again the second time around, trying to make sure that this actually records and we get everything going and giving up your time once again. It's been good talking.
I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It was fun to participate here.
Yeah, and you guys are facing off. Team Asia is playing against Team Germany this week. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right. Well, good luck in your games for this week, but also going forward, because I think you guys got another 4 or 5 weeks left of the World Cup before Top Cut is announced. So, best of luck.
Thanks.
I wish you the best.
All right. Well, that being said, we will call this episode done. And thank you guys for joining us again. And hopefully, I'll be on vacation next week, so we won't have an episode on out there to listen to the following week. But we will be back on track the week after that. And I believe I gotta take a look at my schedule. I'm not sure if we're talking with Von Bonning and Team South America or Team Australia. One of those two. So we gotta see who's available and what I've got on the schedule. But we've got some more World Cup coverage and World Cup teams joining us in the future, and those have been good chats. So with that being said, everybody have a good rest of whatever day, night, evening stuff.
Good one, folks.
Bye.
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 The sunlight dims.
This has been another episode of the Warp Chatter Podcast. Thank you for listening.
Eternal loyalty!
Burn it! Burn it all!
Well executed.